Having joy is probably the thing that people want more than anything else, although they might call it happiness or fulfillment. Ben thought that doing whatever you fancy at any particular time wasn't the right way to find joy. Instead, he reckoned that joy came when you made the decision to stick with something. He really wanted Christians to be people who stick with it, even when things seem difficult. One of the things that he wrote in his book was about the way that members of the Abbey should act when a new brother wanted to join the community. You might think that they would welcome them with open arms, draw them inside, and make them feel at home, but far from it. If someone comes knocking at the door, at the end of 4 or 5 days, allow him entry. Being a member of an abbey requires perseverance, and so Ben wants to make sure that people are committed before they even begin. Guests, you'll be pleased to know, were welcomed much more readily, in fact, as if they were Christ himself. What Ben wrote about being people who stick with it sounds just like something that Paul wrote to the Philippians. In this week's reading, he describes 2 different kinds of people. One group he describes as enemies of Christ. You will recognize them, he seems to suggest, by the way that they live. They are far more interested in the things of today, whether or not their stomachs are full of food, whether they are viewed as important people by others. Their mind is set on earthly things. There is another group, he says, whose minds are set on Jesus Christ. You can recognize this group because they are the kind of people who press on. They strain towards a goal. Their eyes and their minds are focused on the kingdom of God, and everything they do is trained on that. They are full of joy. If you've ever seen an athlete finishing a race, then you will know what joyful perseverance looks like. The marathon runner will have suffered around a long course, pushing as hard as they can to get to the finish line, and yet all that effort turns to instant celebration as they reach the goal. As Christians, we need to have that kind of commitment as we follow Jesus, deciding how we will make time for Jesus each day, planning on staying a part of our community even when it's difficult. It's in being committed through thick and thin that we discover the joy that Paul and Ben both know as the deep reality of their lives. Above all, this is rooted in the resurrection of Jesus, who overcomes and perseveres to the very end and finishes the race with great joy.